like to call to order of the meeting for December 1st, 2015. And if we could please stand for a moment of silence and then the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Madam Secretary, could I please have roll call?
Queen Calder. Here. Gary Simpson.
Present.
Marlon Milner. Olivia Brady. Valerie Scott Cooper.
Here.
Derek Perry.
Here.
Sonia Sanders.
Here. The next order of business is the motion to approve the minutes. So,
Can't hear you.
can't hear.
Use the microphone, please.
It is.
There you go.
I would like to entertain a motion to approve the minutes for the council workshop held on November 17th, 2015.
Second.
Okay, those meeting minutes are approved.
You have to take the vote again.
So, I'm sorry, all those in favor?
Aye.
The ayes have it. Those meeting minutes are approved. There was no executive session tonight. Next order of business is the presentation to the Citizen Leadership graduates, and I'd like to mention that this is the third class that we are handing out certificates to. Vice President Perry, would you like to do the request?
Good evening. This is the third cohort to go through the Citizens Leadership Academy. As of today, we have 50 residents that went through the program in the last 15 months or so. They've learned the ins and outs of local government, the county, the school district, and how they work together with the municipality. They've got to meet directors, staff members, and council members. So tonight we have a few from this group. Not everybody was able to attend. So when I call your name, if you could come up and get your certificate, please. Suzanne Gardner. Sue-Ann, I'm sorry. Sue-Ann. Tiana Marie Jones. Oida Simpson. And Akeem Sims, please. And if you could just stay up here, we'll take a photo. Thank you. Do you want us to shift over? Thank you.
If I may, I would like to say something to the individuals that actually participated in this class. I wanted to extend my thankfulness, and I'm very grateful that we have individuals and residents that do care about Norristown and that do want to improve Norristown. So I'd like to give you guys an additional hand. Next order of business is announcements. Vice President Curry.
Okay, we have the Dragon Boat Club host a winter wonderland at Riverfront Park. Come join the Dragon Boat Club of Norristown as we celebrate the Christmas season with carols, Mr. and Mrs. Claus, cookies, and of course hot chocolate. Riverfront Park will be transformed into a winter wonderland with luminary lights, Candyland themed decorations, and the smell of hot chocolate. Come sing some carols, enjoy the warmth of the community, and greet Santa Claus as he arrives by Dragon Boat to talk with the children. The festivities start at 6 p.m. at Riverfront Park on December 5th. And the Riverfront Park is on Halls Avenue. The Hancock Fire Company has a Red Cross blood drive that will be at 820 West Airy Street on Friday, December 11th from 2 p.m. to 7 p.m. Lieutenant Patty Simon's annual food drive is underway. The donations will benefit the Salvation Army, Eagleville Elementary Snack Program, Catholic Social Services, the Patrician Society, and Community Cupboard. Donation boxes of non-perishable food items are located at the Norristown Police Department in our main lobby. Vance Community Partners is sponsoring the pajama drive for the holidays. Donation boxes are also located in our lobby area and at 212 Cherry Street. The Norristown Men of Excellence will have an awards banquet that benefits kids. That is on December 5th between 12 and 4 p.m. And on December 13th, you have Help a Single Parent Foundation, which will host something at Elmes Cafe from 12 p.m. to 6 p.m. And Councilwoman Valerie Scott, you have another announcement.
Thank you. Yes, I will be holding my very first town hall meeting next Tuesday at the Norristown Library from 6:30 to 7:30 p.m. So I'm asking for residents in the 3rd District to come out and meet myself as well as a couple of the other council members. Thank you.
And that's it.
So that concludes the announcements. Madam Secretary, are there any public comments?
Yes, James Perna.
This working? Yeah. Hi, my name is James Perna. I was here at the
Mr. Turner, could you please state your address, please?
241 West 4th Street, Norristown. And I came to the meeting in September. Late August, I found out I lost my parking in front of my house. 241, 239, and 237, my two neighbors. It's a little between Juniper and Markley. So I came down to the borough, and the borough didn't even know about it. This was PennDOT's. They said PennDOT did this. I mean, they planned this Markley Street project for 4 years or whatever, but there was no thought into all. I think it was like last minute, August. Hey, let's just put a center turning lane here, and why couldn't they put them cutouts parking like they did for Markley Street people? I have no access to the alley behind my house. When I bought the house in '85, it was off-street parking, I was told. And it's been like that for probably since the house was built in 1930, parking there. But I'm trying to ask I had Officer Rambo trying to check into it. I need you guys' help to, get my parking back. I mean, they just took it away out of, whose idea? I mean, it was no letter, nothing sent to us, I don't know where it come from. It was like I said, last minute. So I'm, I come here to, and the only answer I get, we're working on it. You guys have been working on it for 3 months, but I don't know. So what's the progress? Is there any answers or?
Okay, well, firstly, I'd like to say I understand your frustration. And again, I'm sure you've heard that they've been working on it. So what I can do is to see if I can provide or have someone provide maybe a status update, if there is any, at this time?
I'd be happy to.
Thank you. Mr. Jones.
Thank you, Madam President. Actually, as council knows, this project actually was signed off on about 12 years ago. And all of the parameters around the project were established then in terms of all of the public hearings, et cetera, that PennDOT had in terms of what it was going to do. Mr. Turner did come to us a few months back, and we started investigating what was going on with the situation. I know myself, Officer Rambo, public works staff, we all, not only in terms of meetings that we were having routinely with PennDOT, brought up this issue, as did he. I actually wrote a letter to PennDOT requesting that the parking be reinstated. We actually went out on site during the walkthrough, and they had denied it, the change in the letter. They wrote me back saying that it was denied, and the reason so is because, number one, PennDOT has jurisdiction in terms of the egress and ingress on the state roads. That's why they can make the call in terms of how they want that egress and ingress to be impacted. They made that determination 12 years ago. I wrote the letter requesting reconsideration, stating exactly the case that Mr. Turner had raised to us. They denied it. We then, after that denial, went through a punch list walkthrough. We brought it back up again, requesting that there be a reconsideration of it, and for those same reasons, they denied it. So at this point, we've exhausted, in terms of administrative avenues we had. It's ultimately PennDOT's call in terms of the egress and ingress onto a state road. And so it didn't get ignored by staff. Everybody from myself to the staff engineer, municipal engineer, and police and public works have advocated on behalf of this change, and PennDOT has still refused.
Councilman Simpson.
Excuse me. Did anyone reach out to State Representative Bradford? Did he opine on it? Did he speak on what he may or may not be able to do with regards to this request?
Ultimately, he did, and I know Mr. Turner talked to Mr. Bradford's office. I know Mr. Bradford's office contacted us about it. We apprised him of what was going on with the situation. I don't know how he weighed in beyond that with PennDOT, but he did on multiple occasions have questions with us in terms of how it was going. We apprised him of what the decision that PennDOT had made after we had made the formal appeal.
Okay.
Well, now you're saying 12 years, and them 12...
I just have a question, Mr. Perna. Where are you? Is it just you that's affected, or you said there were two other neighbors?
Yes.
And where are how many cars are involved?
I own 2 cars, me and my wife. My neighbor has 1 car, and Larry has 1 truck.
So that's 4 vehicles?
Yes.
And where are you parking now?
Trying to squeeze in on Juniper and like on Fernance towards between Pine and Juniper.
So on side streets, whereas previously you had parked in front of your property, is that correct?
Yeah. Well, you go to the Giant and go Costco and come home with stuff, case of water. I got to carry it, take my wife to the airport, suitcases and everything, come back. It doesn't happen much, but you know, I told Rambo, I says, I'm putting my flashers on and stopping there and unloading what I got to do and let the cars go around me. If the police want to give me a ticket, it's up to them. But it's an inconvenience, big inconvenience. When I go to sell my house, who wants to buy a house you can't park? You got to park.
Yeah, I sense your frustration on this, and I would be upset.
I'm being
with
calm.
you.
I'm trying. But I was never sent a letter. He's like 12 years. It was poor planning on PennDOT's part to take away somebody's parking and not put the cutouts or, like they did on Markley. Some of them houses on Markley have access to a back alley.
Mm-hmm. No, I'm aware of that, and I do know that there were several public meetings that PennDOT had when the Markley Street construction process was in the beginning stages.
Yeah.
That were held up for Eisenhower, and certain people came in and looked at certain things like that. I'm not sure specifically on the time frame of that. You may or may not have been able to attend those meetings, but maybe a lot of your neighbors may have been able to go. I was just curious as to what the ramifications were right now in terms of the number of vehicles and where you're currently parking.
Yeah, we're all trying to squeeze in.
I understand.
You know?
Thank you.
Like I says, everything was Markley Street. I didn't think it affected me. So that's one reason I didn't go to any of them meetings, because I figured all the stuff was on Markley Street. It didn't affect me. Come August, no parking. Now it affects me. So, you know, if they would have sent me a letter ahead of time, I would have been at every one of them meetings. I don't see where he said 12 years. It was shown that we were going to me, it was last minute planning. We're going to put a Sunday turning lane in here. That's also, if you could show me where the plans were, where they said they were doing this 12 years ago.
Councilman Milner.
Thank you. I don't have a question about this matter. I have a more general question. As the administrator, Mr. Jones, talked about the punch list and the walkthrough, because I do know it seems like there are some additional outstanding issues. To my knowledge, they have yet to stripe. I thought they were going to stripe these spaces, and there was a concern on the bump outs about the spacing that would be lost in terms of the width that they were going to use, particularly for handicap spaces. And I see no striping has taken place. Can you opine on that?
The striping is still scheduled to happen. As far as the size of the handicap spaces, they're going to be the standard 20-foot spaces for handicap parking. So there's not any change on that. I think the issue related to loss of spaces altogether was that it was going to be understood that there was going to be a loss of spaces along the corridor just as a result of doing cutouts. And so, but...
Well, no, I understand that, but I think, so as someone who was in community meetings 7 or 8 years ago, this was a community concern. The issues of parking were a concern. We just may not have had the political clout to address it. While I can't speak to, and I'm sorry, sir, I'm blanking on your name, while I can't speak to
Turner.
Turner.
P with a P, not a T. Perner.
That's it. Yes, thank you. While I'm not speaking to Mr. Perner's specific concern, I am familiar with the intersection because I live in the 1600 block of Juniper Street. What I know is residents voiced concerns about the loss of parking.
Right.
And I realized we weren't, whatever the reason, the project proceeded, and I thought we were trying to work out a compromise. I've not observed a parking problem with the cutouts as I drive along Markley. What I mean by that simply is I drive through there during the day and during the evening, and I've tried to be very observant because people felt like they were going to lose spaces, and I haven't seen the cutouts jam-packed. But if we stripe, and that's going to turn a place where maybe 4 people would squeeze into a place where officially only 3 people can park, then we are going to further restrict. And I would be interested in knowing, is PennDOT just the Department of No, or is there some flexibility? Because I have not observed a problem, but I'd be uncomfortable, and I'm certainly not, they could simply stripe spaces for handicapped people, but I'm not observing a problem yet, and I'd be concerned at them taking, I guess, what would be this last step that might in fact create a problem.
Before I sit down, I've been to Matt Bradford's office twice, and every time I go there, actually I talked to Matt that day. We had the ceremony cutting ribbon service on Brown Street, and Norristown's working on it. The people call from his office, the young people that work for him, they'll call down here, and we're working on it. I don't really think Matt Bradford got involved because he thought Norristown was doing something about it. Maybe he what the state should do more, you know, that's my opinion. And then this is on traffic patterns. I talked to Caldwell before. Down by the park, you know, if people ain't from around here, you know how you go around that curve where the baseball fields are? There's people that hog. You're supposed to keep driving, but they want to go straight. Could we paint lines in the road where this side is straight and then this side you turn? You know what I'm talking about? Yeah, there's people maybe not from Norristown, and they get on the right-hand side. They want to go straight. It's a weird, you know, where the back of Roosevelt Field is. I just something I want to bring up is, and I'm done. Yeah, get jammed up there. Okay, I mean, I hope this ain't done with the parking on France, if we can.
Okay, thank you, Mr.
Maybe when they do the lower part of Markley, we can get them to come up and put cutouts there if we have our parking.
Thank you, Mr. Berner.
Betty Ann McPherson.
Hi, my name is Betty Ann McPherson. I'm the block captain of 1100 block with Green Street. I have several problems. The first one is we're beginning to have a lot of drug houses on Green Street. And I guess that's due to the fact that the people who own those rented houses are bringing them in. And the people who own the houses, as far as I know of, are drug addicts themselves. And something needs to stop. We have Section 8 there. And you have people running in and out of Section 8 that you're only supposed to have. If I'm Section 8 and my name's on it, I'm only supposed to, as far as I know, you're supposed to have yourself and your kids. Not yourself and other people coming there and living there and going in and out when they want to. And also, we have 1127, where she has 3 to 4 kids. They throw stuff out the window. The 2-year-old threw the bike out and just missed a woman that was walking down the street. And nothing is being said. My coordinator, who is Lee Peoples, she's reported this because I have reported it so many times, and there's nothing being done about it. The 1100 block used to be a nice block. You also have 126 Green and Basin Street, where it's an empty house right there on the corner. Televisions are being thrown in this house. I reported that. Nothing is being done. 201 East Poplar Street. The branches of the tree is falling down. Kids are smoking marijuana, and they're also doing their thing there. Now, I was told by a grown person who lives up there, who's, you know, nothing is being done, no matter how much you report it to whoever you report it to. The other day, 2 weeks ago, I was down here. Now, I do not know, but your gas place where you put gas in your car here for the police officers, now I saw he might be a police officer, but he was in regular clothes. He was using his car, his regular car, to put gas in. So if he can do it, I'm wondering if I can do it too. Because I think that's unfair to anybody that belongs to this community, and you have police officers who are not in their outfits, but they bring their cars and they put gas in there, and I don't think that's right. There's too much going on in our little neighborhood when it's reported. I'm just curious why nobody is giving us a helping hand. Nobody. No matter how many meetings the Norristown Town Watch has, she calls people, nobody responds back to the Norristown group, and I'm just curious to know why. And, I don't have my glasses. Yes, we have a lot of empty houses, not on 1100 block, but you also have empty houses on the 1000 block of Green Street, right down below the Elks home where that empty lot is. I reported that. It's like a trash zone there. You have pit bulls running around. I reported all of this. I reported so much where, you know, you really and truly you get disgusted because you don't find out anybody who's helping us. You say you want the town watch for the people, and we're supposed to report our news to you. We do report it. Some people do come back, but not enough people come back to give us a helping hand. And I think that is wrong. We need help here in Norristown. Not only the 1100 block, we need it all over Norristown. And I'm just wondering why we are not getting the substantial help that this Norristown Town Watch goes out. We do a lot. I'm not saying we want pats on the back, but we want the druggies to own these houses who are bringing other druggies in on the 1100 block or bringing them in all around Norristown. The Section 8, halfway houses. I guess I have to go to certain meetings to find out why there are so many halfway houses in our area and not in certain sections of Norristown. And that's not right for us. We have children. We want them to grow up in nice neighborhoods just like everybody else around Norristown. But thank you for listening.
Thank you, Ms. McBurney. So a couple of things. I have actually worked with Lee myself on a couple of properties that I did address along with Mr. Simonson, and there were times where we did have a quick turnaround. So if there is something else that is still outstanding in regards to another residence that you would like the Mr. Simonson to take a look at, if you could speak to Mr. Simonson either after the meeting or give him your information. Secondly, Chief, if you could possibly provide maybe some sort of solution or recommendation in regards to the drug houses and the police officer in the plainclothes that were getting gas.
Sure, I'm happy to look at it. I don't believe I missed a phone call from you, Betty Ann.
No, but I went back there to take a picture, and as I put it back there, that person left.
Okay.
And that was my fault for not
Happy to take a look at it. Just so we're clear, there are plenty of unmarked police cars. There are plenty of police officers that would be working without a uniform on that you'd recognize that could have been getting gas. It's pretty unlikely that anybody was just grabbing gas and putting it in their own car. That would be theft.
Yes, this was his own car. I know a marked car, some marked cars, but this
Well, trust me, you don't know all the cars.
I didn't say that. I said I
Okay.
know some,
Well,
but that was
I'm paying attention, and we'll make sure to stay on it. But I'm happy to touch base with you about the other issues you talked about.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you.
Councilman Sim.
Thank you. Ms. Betty Ann, you were doing a lot of generalization there. Now, I know that there are a lot of problems, but when you say no one ever calls you back or no one is ever being responsive, that's not fair to those who are actually being responsive. I know for a fact whenever Lee People sends me an email with regards to, and I've asked her to CC me on emails whenever they come, that I also get behind it as well as other council people. So we can't use general terms. We have to be specific with certain things that are not being addressed, but when things are being addressed, then it should be noted as such. So I love you to death, but I take offense whenever they say nobody is doing anything, because then that says that none of us are being supportive, nor are we helping or assisting in the things that are being addressed. So that's what, no, Lee, I ain't talking to you right now. So I'm saying that we do help, we do listen, we do hear. Our police departments are looking at things. They can't always tell you that they're looking at things. So I'm saying pause, take a deep breath, be patient, continue to give us the information that we need so that Chief and his officers can do his job, Mr. Simonson and his people and staff can do their job, and so on. So I know it's frustrating sometimes because it's frustrating for all of us, but we need you to help do the things that you do, but be careful, right? Don't just jump out there all the time. Be careful and let the professionals do their job. That's all I'm going to say. Thank you.
You're welcome. Councilman Miller.
Thank you. I have mentioned this before, but I think it bears worth mentioning again that these alleged issues in the 1300 block of Green Street sound like a perfect opportunity for the Norristown New Horizon initiative, right, where you bring the multiple departments together and you triage a very discrete area. At least that's how I understand the program, and maybe I'm misunderstanding its purpose. But I can't speak to the legitimacy or illegitimacy of Ms. Betty Ann's concerns, but it is my sense that if we triage a discrete neighborhood with multiple departments of the municipality, then the people raising those concerns ought to be able to see and feel and hear that, even if they don't know about undercover cops and, you know, plain clothes outfits and whatever. And I mean, that's not the issue here. I do think the other thing I heard, so I'd like to see that initiative. I don't know what's happened to it. I don't hear a lot about it anymore, but it seems to me when people ever come before this body and say, in this block or this neighborhood are all these overlapping problems, it sounds like it's a great opportunity for what I understood that initiative was supposed to be about. The second thing I heard, and I didn't hear it, it said explicitly, and I don't want to invite Ms. Betty Ann back to the mic because she already had her public comment, but she is a part of Town Watch, and I know we have different opinions or attitudes about the people who volunteer in Town Watch. I think it's suffice to say that all those people are at least committed people in the community, and maybe they're feeling a little undervalued and underappreciated in terms of what they do with their eyes and ears on the street. And if we've not checked in with them as a group, maybe that's something the administrator ought to do. Maybe it'd be helpful for them maybe it'd be helpful for them as a group, Town Watch, to better understand how the information they share or not share gets used or not used by this administration. But she was invoking Town Watch quite a bit in terms of talking about what she brings and others bring to the table. And maybe we've, maybe we've not lost sight of what Town Watch is doing. But I think it just bears noting that there are people in our neighborhoods who are very vigilant about anything they observe that they think is inappropriate, and they're very vigilant about calling and emailing, and we don't want those people to be disaffected. We do want those people to feel like they're being responded to and not simply treated like they're crying wolf. Thank you.
Sorry. George Bodge.
My name is George Bodge. I live at 1013 West Airy Street. I'm here about a problem parking in the 1000 block that we've had for a couple of years now. It basically doesn't really affect me, but it affects the whole neighborhood. There's a certain vehicle that parks in the neighborhood, non-resident. It's not parked illegally, but it's taking up a parking place from residents. It really shouldn't be there, but I was told there's really nothing more I can do about it, so I thought maybe I'd come here and speak to you about possible parking permits for residents only in that area, because all they do is park the truck there, move it during sweepy hours, and then put it back and leave it sit there. They're just being spiteful by keeping the spot away from anybody else in the neighborhood. I think Mr. Caldwell knows what I'm talking about. It's the doctor's office. I've had confrontations with him before. I spoke to Officer Rambo, Officer Stowell, which is why I'm here tonight. This is my last hope here, to try and get them to not do what they're doing. They're just taking the spot away from the neighbors. I'm sticking up for the neighborhood. That's all I'm doing. So I don't know what's involved in getting permits for residents or neighborhood, permanent resident parking, but maybe you can look into that, because I was told there's nothing else they could do. It's park legal, but it's always there. Thank you.
Thank you.
That's it.
One more thing. And he has off-street parking for himself. He has at least 4 to 7 parking spots. It's not like he can't park off-street. So there's really no reason for it to be parked on the street. Almost forgot that.
Thank you. Madam Secretary, is there any communication tonight?
No, there's not.
Thank you. Moving on to the next order of business for planning and municipal development. Jane, will you be leading the 2016 CDBG budget, or just giving a high level?
Yes, Madam President, I'll be pleased to.
Thank you.
As Council will recall, this is our annual application for the Community Development Block Grant Funds. This particular year, for the 2016, which begins in March, we'll be asking her to give us $812,000. The projects that are being proposed to be undertaken under this 2016 year is the owner-occupied housing rehab program for $140,000, housing rehab technical support $35,000, code enforcement $100,000, fair housing $35,000, severe service fire engine payment of $62,000, small business center $45,000, Main Street economic development $58,000, Main and Green parking lot restoration $40,000, and Section 108 loan interest repayment $134,872. The Plan Department has held the appropriate public hearings that are required by HUD. Council was advised of this budget, and Council voted for this budget to be advertised in an ordinance form, and it has been advertised, and therefore it's back to Council tonight for Council's approval, so that we're able to submit the application to HUD by January 14th. That's a required time frame. If we do not meet that time frame, we will not be able to get the funding. That concludes my report.
Thank you, Ms. Musonye. I would like to entertain a motion to adopt the ordinance 15-10 to establish the 2016 CDBG budget in the amount of $812,640.
Second.
Discussion?
Roll.
Sorry. Madam Secretary, may I have roll call, please?
William Caldwell.
Aye.
Gary Simpson.
Aye.
Marlon Milner. Olivia Brady. Valerie Scott Cooper. Derek Perry. Sonia Sanders.
Aye. The ayes have it. That motion approves ordinance 15-10. You're welcome. The next order of business we have is public safety. And Chief, if I could you speak a little to resolution 15-154, please?
Yes, ma'am, thank you. I'm requesting that council consider approving handicap parking spaces for 524 Cherry Street, 107 Stanbridge Street, and 207 Sweet Street. The residents at those locations have shown a need for some sort of accommodation, and this is necessary for their parking. And I'm also asking you to consider removing handicap space at 105 Knox Street. The resident no longer drives or owns a vehicle.
Thank you, Chief. Madam Secretary, may I have roll call, please?
We have a motion and a second.
I'm sorry. I'd like to entertain a motion to approve resolution 15-154 to establish 3 residential handicap parking spaces.
Second.
Madam Secretary, may I have roll call, please?
William Caldwell. Gary Simpson. Marlon Milner. Olivia Brady. Valerie Scott Cooper. Derek Perry. Sonia Sanders.
Aye. That motion carries. Resolution 15-154. The next order of business is finance. Mr. Milner.
Yes. I'd like to ask if you'd entertain a motion to do that item last, as I believe it will involve some discussion, and we have two relatively simple other matters to address.
Yes, Mr. Miller, I will consider that.
So I'd like to offer a motion that we move item A under finance to the last item on our agenda.
All those in favor?
Aye.
The ayes have it, and we will move that agenda item at the end. The next order of business we have is code. Mr. Simonson, if you could please speak to the HARP certificates.
Thank you, Madam President. The first item on the code enforcement is some requests for certificates of appropriateness from the HARB Board. The first one is 301 Stanbridge Street. What the applicants applied for at the HARB Board was an addition to their fence, and with certain specifications lined out by HARB. And for this one, the guidelines are also conditional and our approval on the zoning approval. They need to go to zoning before they can install the fence. We just prepared the guidelines for installation.
Thank you.
I'd like to make a motion that we do these as a group.
Thank you. Accepted.
Okay. Second, I'll just keep going down. The second one is 728 Astor Street. 728 Astor Street went in front of the HARB Board to close in an open entrance and install some automatic doors, time period sensitive, on the front porch area. The third and fourth are 915, 917 West Washington Street. The West Washington Street properties are applied for an economic hardship because of the repairs that would have to be performed on the residents would exceed the value of the residents to do it at up to HARB appropriateness. What they wanted to do there was they wanted to repair some of the stucco, complete some of the work on the facade, windows and doors, and trim. The last one for the HARP consideration is 213 Buttonwood Street, and this too is a repair of a front porch. It actually a replace of a column. So the guidelines were laid out by HARP, and they approved any construction standards.
Thank you, Mr. Simonson. I'd like to entertain a motion to approve the HARP certificates of the appropriateness as follows of all of the addresses stated: 301 Stanbridge Street, 728 Astor Street, 915 West Washington, 917 West Washington, and 213 Buttonwood Street.
So moved.
Second. Madam President, I have a question.
Question, Councilwoman Brady.
Thank you. Mr. Simonson, in our notes, we talked about the front facade and the finish that is being requested by the HARB. I've seen these finishes that have been made to resemble painted brick, and it actually doesn't look too bad. The one I'm thinking of is primarily the one at the corner of George and West Elm Streets. In your experience in these HARB certificate of appropriateness, is this the finish that we are going after for those that experience economic hardship in repairing facades?
HARB doesn't lay out a specific guideline. They kind of leave it up to the homeowners, but the homeowner has to have the guideline or the construction standard approved prior to. So any sort of materials that the owner or contractor is going to use is going to have to be pre-approved.
And in the meeting, had they talked about the economic hardship to the satisfaction that there was actually a hardship existing?
Yes.
Thank you.
All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? The ayes have it, and that motion is approved.
The second item under code enforcement is the request for the municipal council to approve or disapprove the proposed ordinance 1509, amending the definition of real property to exclude new construction and to add a definition of new construction. New construction, it was a realization of the code enforcement that new construction should be removed from the real property definition and should be bumped out on its own because we are coming across new construction and there was some confusion with transfer inspections with real property and new construction. So in order to remedy the situation, the best way to handle it was to remove new construction from the real property definition and have a standalone definition for it.
Thank you, Mr. Simonson.
Yep.
I would like to entertain a motion to approve the proposed ordinance 15-09, amending the definition of real property to exclude new construction and to add a definition of new construction.
I'll for a motion to approve.
All those in favor? I'm sorry, roll call. Madam Secretary.
William Caldwell.
Aye.
Gary Simpson. Marlon Milner.
Yes.
Olivia Brady. Valerie Scott Cooper. Derek Perry. Sonia Sanders.
Aye. That motion carries ordinance 15-09. Now back to the order of finance. Ms. Burkett, if you would, begin speaking. Will that be you, Mr. Jones?
Yes, I'll actually start.
Okay, Mr. Jones, would you please get started on the 2016 municipal budget?
Certainly. Council, thank you, Madam President. As a matter certainly for public information, we want to go through the brief presentation for the benefit of citizens who are in attendance and who will be watching so that they'll have an understanding of what's being proposed in the 2016 budget. Start off with some quick facts. The 2016 proposed budget, and we have made a slight change as a result of discussions on the Saturday of the budget workshop, currently represents a budget of $30,747,750, which is less than 1% increase over 2015. That being the case, the proposed millage rate remains the same at 12.70, so no change from 2015. We also wanted to note that there was a slight increase in the assessed valuation of properties in the municipality of Norristown since the 2015 valuation, and that is an increase of about $1.8 million over property assessments that were made in the prior year. What that millage rate, and this is just a calculation to show what the millage rate remains the same, but because there was an increase in the valuation of property in Norristown, the average property value for an average homeowner went up from $84,747 in 2015 to $88,526 in 2016 proposed as it stands right now. So what this increase in valuation does not mean an increase in taxes, only unless a person, family requests a reassessment of their property value in 2016. Will there be an increase in taxes. Otherwise, it's going to stay exactly the same. Some other facts related to the 2016 proposed budget. This is just showing you that there was an increase in the assessed value for properties in Norristown from $881 in 2015, $881,000 in 2015 to $883 in 2016. We also, as far as some of our obligations, we're pleased to say that our pension expense is not increasing greatly over the course of the year, but as you know, we do expect that to change in future years. So right now we're talking about, in terms of pension expenses, obligations that municipality has overall in 2016 will actually only increase by about $16,000 over the 2015 amount. This is just for the information of the public to show how the calculation is made. So again, if there was an assessment that was requested on a home in 2016 for the average homeowner that would request an assessment, there would be a tax increase of about $48. For those, and the great majority of folks who won't be making that request, there'll be no change from 2015 to 2016. Some other facts in terms of what impacted the calculation and the ultimate budget that we propose are some revenue declines and some cost increases. We see that there's going to be a $62,000 increase in property taxes from real property. We're estimating also in terms of local enabling taxes, business privilege, EIT, and LST, that we should see about a $313,000 increase. One of the points I'll also make is that we make very, very conservative estimates of revenue, and so that we do not over project. Based on what we saw this year, we are projecting about a $1.1 million reduction in building permit fees, but that again may change as a lot of development that we thought we get off the ground in 2015 actually seems to be on target for 2016, but we're still taking a very conservative approach with that. In terms of expenses, we see about $360,000 related, notable increases, $360,000 related to police. Most of that has to do with benefits related to the health and pension. About $20,000 in planning, and that's the result, as council is aware, of the planned trip that we are working on as far as the Kenya trip to work on the coffee importation and distribution business that we've had discussions with the governor of Kiambu County, Kenya, and other members of the state delegation over the course of the last year. We're projecting and proposing a decrease. This budget represents a $45,000 decrease in legal expenses. Large part of that has to do with the tail off of what's been happening as far as the 770 Sandy Street. We reduced it last year. We did not have a whole lot of action, and we don't foresee a lot of action related to that. And then because we went to the new trash collection and actually outsourced not only, we outsourced municipal trash collection because that was a cost associated for us, other than a pass-through because we only a pass-through for citizens. But for municipal trash collection, because we outsourced it instead of trying to maintain it in-house, we were able to further reduce our trash collection costs by $76,000 in this budget. The next is really a listing, and we kind of expanded this list based on some discussion at the budget workshop, so that council and citizens could have an opportunity to see really all of the departments that are impacted in the budget. to identify not only what's proposed in the departments versus 2016, but also to look at the changes, notable ones in the Office of Administration. What we're proposing in this budget is the addition of an analyst position because there really is no analytical support in the Office of the Administrator. You see and the second part of that is again related to the trip to Kenya. You see in the Municipal Council budget a 37% increase. That again is primarily related in terms of a delegation of council members as we try to pursue closing that deal. Other increases, you'll see human resources increase notably of 66.92%. And I'll also share, we've done some realignment of a lot of the costs in this budget from prior years because they really weren't put in some instances, were not put in the right departments. With human resources specifically, the two receptionist positions that were out front had been previously placed under the budget of the municipal administrator, but they actually report directly to the HR manager. And so what we're doing now is just realigning those costs. And so you see the costs associated with that being put in that department. And we've also are proposing that we go to a full-time, a second assistant, a full-time assistant rather than that, those two part-time positions, because the standard in HR for any organization that there be at least one HR professional for every 75 people that are full-time employees in the organization. At this point, we have about 180 full-time employees in the municipality and only one full-time HR person. So we are adding an additional full-time person through actually combining those positions to do that, and that's our proposal. Basically, in terms of any large costs, those are the big costs that are associated with from 2015 to 2016. We put this pie chart here as an opportunity just to see, graphically and visually what it looks like in terms of the bigger impact departments, and it's typical in Norristown as it is in most governments. It's always going to be police departments, usually the largest department. In our instance, it's about 26.4% of the budget is related to police services. The second largest in the municipality is the public works operation. Third largest is the fire department. We've also represented that in a bar chart, as was requested at council, so that you can actually see these costs associated, percentage of costs associated by departments. And again, when you look at it, police, public works, fire, administrative overhead and other costs associated with non-departmental costs that are grouped together that are associated with just running a municipality are larger than the fire department, but from a personnel standpoint, it is the third largest. And this is just another representation of those same, the previous slide was another representation of those same numbers in tabular form. We also have presented to council for discussion purposes only, with the exception of the roads, a beginning of capital projects, a 5-year capital projects budget. As you know, we are required to present a 5-year capital improvement plan to the council, and it is our intent to do so. We have cataloged and analyzed and investigated and researched all the capital needs that we have in the municipality. This is not in terms of a priority. This is in terms of our first look as far as departments responding. We want to get input from council and ultimately a council decision on what your priorities are. But these are all needs from both a preventive maintenance and an ongoing capital improvement standpoint of what needs to happen over the next 5 years in the municipality as far as facilities, infrastructure, and vehicles are concerned, whether those fire trucks down to cars and trucks in terms of everyday operations. One of the things I'll point out as it relates to the road project, we made a presentation to council earlier in terms of our approach at really dealing with a comprehensive road improvement program for municipal roads. And what we proposed to do, council had approved us to actually conduct a comprehensive assessment of all the roads, municipality-owned roads in Norristown, and we did block-by-block assessments of all of those roads, so we know the condition of every block of every road in the municipality. And what our municipal engineer, along with our public works staff, did was to prioritize these roads based on a 1 to 5 priority, with the 1 being the highest priority roads. We've identified all of those roads. There are approximately 50 segments of roads, approximately 50 of those that we presented to council. Council accepted as a high priority, and we're in the process right now of preparing the RFP to issue for that road work to be undertaken over the next 3 to 5 years. How this is different from how we've done it before is, rather than year to year submit 7 or 8 roads for construction, what we're doing this year is, again, approximately 50 segments of the worst road, the worst. All 50 of them are noted as priority 1 roads. The total for that is about $3.5 million. And what we are proposing to do is to utilize liquid fuels funds, which finance our road improvements, in a borrowing, whether that be a straight borrowing or a bond borrowing, so that we can bid those all 50 roads, and then that work will be ongoing until we've completed priority 1. Then we'll roll down to priority 2. And the approach that we're using now is that we're doing the kind of road work where we should be able to get to priority 5 before we need to go back to priority 1 road. So with that, beyond that, with the capital improvement program, we're going to be scheduling some discussions to have with council for you to hash out what your collective priority is for us to pursue, and financing of capital projects. And last thing I'll report related to that is that because we have completed all of our audits and our financial status is sound, that puts us in a position to do substantial capital and smart capital borrowing for us to take care of some of the infrastructure, facility, and vehicle needs that have gone undealt with for the last several years. And that ends that presentation, Council. Finance Director and I will entertain any questions that you have.
I would like to make a motion to approve the advertising of proposed ordinance 15-11, adopting the 2016 municipal budget and establishing the tax rate for 2016. Councilman Miller.
I have several questions, some of which are embedded in the presentation tonight, and others are not, but are related to the budget discussion. We were sent an additional document to give consideration to budgetary changes as it relates to public safety. Mr. Jones, can you comment on that?
I'd certainly be happy to. Give me just 1 second. All righty. As Mr. Milner states, we actually were at the budget discussion, had a discussion about a couple of options related to increasing public safety as far as police services and fire services are related to personnel. We were asked to provide the impact related to doing so, and we provided that subsequent information to council. What we shared is, as related to the increase by one officer, that the total, when you talk about salaries, benefits, uniforms, equipment, estimated pension, that impact is about $133,427 in year one. As related to one firefighter, salary, benefits, uniforms, equipment, pension, $146,939 would be for 1 year. So the total, if you did it for just one officer per department, $280,366 would be roughly salary, equipment, et cetera, related to that. If the other discussion, because both departments have made a request for 3 officers each, that impact, 3 per department, would be $841,998.
And I presume the budget ordinance that we will shortly vote on to advertise or not does not reflect any modification in its appropriations as explained in that prior chart. Is that correct?
That's correct. We're waiting on direction from council. I will also, go ahead, I'm sorry.
Mr. Solicitor, can you clarify the impact of a modification, of a budgetary modification on this vote to advertise and approve process?
Sure. My recommendation always when things are in flux with a budget is you go ahead and advertise a higher number, and by law you could always bring that down. You get into a trickier situation when you go from low to high. But if you go from high to low, if you go ahead and authorize advertisement of the higher number, you can cut that down legally and there are no issues.
Can you clarify, cut that down legally, meaning in the year 2016 we can make a revision, or before the final approval we can make a revision?
Before the final approval, you can make a revision.
Okay. What is the ordinance as brought before us tonight does not reflect a higher number as it relates to this accessory discussion about public safety. What is our route for action tonight, given your advice?
Well, you could go ahead and insert that higher number if that's what council wanted to do, but that's your call.
But I presume we don't know, we by law pass a balanced budget. We by law pass a balanced budget, so I don't think anybody came prepared tonight to do all the math to include those additional costs.
Well, I'm sure we actually, we have the math related to the additional costs. Again, we submitted the information waiting on guidance from council. And if the body wants to add, just give us the direction, and certainly the ordinance could reflect that. As the solicitor says now, it could reflect it later. I think if the danger that he's speaking to is probably more political than it is otherwise, it's not, I don't think it's legal, but certainly in terms of going high and coming low, it does offer an advantage. But should council choose to do that, then what we will bill, if it was one officer, we will bill the bottom line for real estate taxes bill will be $11,570,170 as opposed to $11,000,002. If it's 3 officers, it's $12,100,000. And the difference, for the first one is $353,000 change because we're talking about a 0.4 millage increase, which would impact the average homeowner by about $35.41. If you went with the second option of 3 and 3, the average impact would be about $88.53.
Okay, so I'll yield the floor for a moment. I have several other questions, but I just want to observe that I don't find this process as productive as it ought to be, and I would note for my less experienced colleagues, and I realize my more experienced colleagues may disagree, we used to have multiple workshops before we went into a vote to advertise on a final vote, because these are the things that have to get worked out. And what has been presented here is that we can address a public safety need, but we can address it via a tax increase. And this process of budgeting is not so black and white. And if the ball is really in our court to decide, I remember one of the first budgets this council went through. I met with one of our now former colleagues, Bill Precyson, and he and I and a former colleague, Linda Christian, identified hundreds of thousands of dollars of cost savings that offset investments in other areas so that there didn't have to be a scenario like there is tonight, which is, okay, you can do more in public safety, but you have to have a tax increase. There has to be an environment where more back and forth can take place so that we're not looking at that, because I can presume my colleagues don't want to raise taxes, so it's very easy to say, well, we'll take that off the table this year, because we've not had the kind of context that we would have to really work through these items and work them out. And that's why I think we're in a difficult space. I'd certainly be open to advertising a budget with a tax increase, but what I'd say to our colleagues is that we're going to have to do the hard work to figure out what we're going to cut somewhere else or change somewhere else so that we arrive at the budget that we really want. I believe we can arrive at a budget where we make a stronger investment in public safety and not raise taxes, but I don't think we're going to get there through this discussion process tonight.
Councilwoman Brady.
Thank you, Madam President. I just want some clarification just so that the public is aware of what we are doing tonight. This vote tonight is simply to advertise the budget. And as Mr. Solicitor had indicated, if we advertise the budget with the 13.7 millage increase, that doesn't necessarily mean that when we vote on it, that is the one that we're going to vote on. Presumably, it's possible that we wouldn't vote on it. I can't say what we would do without the discussion that Councilman Milner is talking about. But just for clarification purposes, I want to make sure that people understand that tonight's vote is to simply advertise the proposed budget, and that if we did advertise a budget with a tax increase, that doesn't necessarily mean that is the budget that we'll ultimately end up with. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilwoman Brady, for clarifying that and providing that explanation. So there. Mr. Simpson.
I'm not going to be long. I'm not normally long-winded. So, Mr. Jones, if you could just give me a quick, and I apologize, just a quick understanding. Don't wipe your brow. You're going to be okay. So the .4 increase, the middle line, that's for one additional each, correct? And that tax increase, you said, is about $35 per household?
That's correct.
Okay. And that would, and this is just for my own knowledge before we go into more discussions, Chief, one additional police officer would be effective to your task at the time based off of what you have now?
Yes.
Chief O'Donnell, one additional firefighter would be effective in your approach in being able to do the job that you have to actually do for now?
One is better than none.
Correct. So I think it kind of going off of what, and Councilman Milner is correct in possibly being able to have some additional conversations. So maybe possibly we can sit down at the table before the 15th, before we have to actually vote this in.
Absolutely.
To maybe have one more discussion about how we can drive through, if there are some areas where we can kind of readdress. Because not that, now, I mean, and I hope people don't take this the wrong way, you never want to raise taxes. So even if we did raise taxes, unfortunately, Bill and I won't have to deal with that. It's the truth.
It is what it is.
It is what it is. And my council colleagues would have to. And we all know that under the constraints that we are as a community as it stands, you don't want to raise taxes, but you do want to make sure that our public safety is in a place where we can do the things that we need to finish doing. And we know that we are probably one of the most responsive communities in Montgomery County, both at the police level and the fire level. So I think if there's any kind of a way where we can be able to help the residents understand and appreciate why we would be raising taxes versus just for the sake of, this is really a public safety issue, not so much just we want to get 2 new cars and whatever. So I think, you know, if we have that discussion, if we really sit down and talk about it, if we figure out a way how we can present it to the community where they can appreciate and better understand what we're doing, I think it may be a little bit more amenable to, or they may be a little bit more amenable to a potential, and not saying this is what's occurring, but a potential increase if it needs to take place. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Simpson. Councilwoman Brady.
Actually, I'm going to let Councilman Caldwell speak. Yield the floor, that's what I was going to say.
Thank you. Unfortunately, we lost the picture of the numbers. Can we get that back by any chance? Or
Which
lost
one?
The one that's above your head.
Oh, okay.
But the numbers were 300,000 for one
353,
350 for one, 800 for 3. Is that about right?
Right. For one each, 353, 288.
Okay. And
for 6, 883.
I mean, the other thing I'll say on this is I think while we may find $300,000 in savings or in cuts, frankly, I don't think you're going to find savings. I think 800,000 is probably unrealistic to find without pretty drastic cuts to one or all programs. So I think that's going to be a hard choice for council. And I think, if we probably ought to make sure that we're very realistic about that. I think anything we do is going to, in terms of certainly in terms of increasing 3 is going to be a tax increase. Now that increase may be justified in the results we get in public safety, and I think that's the real argument or the real discussion that we probably ought to have is, do we attain the results for the public? Is this a good investment of the public's money? Rather than looking at programs that are already pretty lean and trying to peel money out of them. I think there was a slide with some of the budgets, the budget numbers by department.
Oh, yes. I took it. Hold on just a second.
If I remember that, there was, I just look at a $300,000 or an $800,000 chunk out of most of them, with the exception of obviously fire and police we wouldn't be pulling out of. To me, seems pretty significant in many of those departments. I mean, those are pretty sizable cuts. An $800,000 cut in let's pick one, since he's sitting next to me, code enforcement. Jeez, you're gone. So I don't know where. I think we have to be honest about it. I think if we're looking at increasing manpower, we're increasing. We're going to have to increase taxes about. Is that a realistic thing to do, and is it a good investment of our public's money? And like I said, if the mission is right and it works, it may well be. But let's not. I think we're fooling ourselves if we think we're going to find those kinds of cuts. I just don't think we're going to find them. And that's. Yeah, I guess that's me disagreeing with you, Marlon.
Thank you, Madam President. I tend to agree with what you're saying in terms of giving the information to the public in terms of what we can expect by the 2 additional officers. However, that being said, there are citizens in our municipality that are struggling paying the taxes that we have now. And regardless of the fact that $35 seems like a small increase, if they're struggling now, they won't be able to make the $35. I would be inclined to perhaps look at that and advertise that, but on the other hand, delve into the discussions that Councilman Milner had alluded to by really looking at our budgets and finding out what our priorities are and how we can possibly afford the additional officers without having to raise taxes. Because I really think that with the services that we're able to provide for our municipal residents, regardless of how nice we make it sound to them and how logical we make them understand that this is a necessary investment, it's not easy to take when there are several residents who have to consider whether they can actually buy food one week or pay their taxes. So I really think we need to take that into consideration and understand the hardships that some of our residents are going through.
Thank you, Councilwoman Brady. Councilman Miller.
Thank you. I hope I'm hearing that there's going to be another budget workshop before the vote. And if so, I will simply frame and foreground and preface that discussion by offering some areas to be talked about. One is, I feel like in the other workshop that I was told that I was misreading the monthly reports, particularly as it related to overtime, because I had tried to question Chief Talbot about the overtime, and then I was told they were under budget 22%. But I'm reading 2 monthly reports, September and October. I would just call your attention on, and this is related to the budget. Again, background here. In the October monthly report, we're told that the overtime budget for the police for 2015 was $356,000 roughly. That year to date, that probably since this is the October report, sometime to the end of September, they were already at $533,000. So they were already over budget $142,000. So I'm not sure why anybody was inspired to misspeak about where they were, and it wasn't Chief Talbot. But I bring this up because it seems to me a part of a cost-benefit analysis is about how would 3 full-timers affect the overtime, right? We got $500,000 here in overtime through 3/4 of the year. And If the overtime is going to, and it's already, I don't know, it's already 20 to 25% over budget. And so it seems to me that the overtime versus full-time needs to be looked at. So I hope that'll be looked at for police and fire. That's one. Two, we slashed public safety fee projection by $1 million. We hit that number. You got the money to bring on 3 officers and 3 fire personnel. I think it would be helpful to know what's the basis of that number, period. And of course, the basis of that number is the belief about people who are going to need the building permits and electrical permits and plumbing permits. So I think we need more information about what we are to believe about that number in general. Because I'm not really interested in a conservative estimate. I'm interested in an informed estimate. And if we're just being conservative because we were wrong this year, the conservative estimate could still be wrong for 2016. But if we in fact are on the cusp of a significant uptick in public safety fees, then we really ought to know that as it relates to making a decision. The final thing I will preface for the discussion is you estimate a plus 300,000 in EIT, LST, and BPT, although, Mr. Jones, you're on record talking about, BPT and an acceptable fluctuation in collecting it. I find this to be a fairly aggressive increase given your on-the-record comments about such taxes. So I'd like to better understand why that's a number that is expected to uptick so significantly, and if in fact there may be more there and we're leaving it on the table. So I think the potential is there that there's significant amount of revenue that we need to account for rightly, not necessarily conservatively. I'm not necessarily supporting 3 fire personnel and 3 police and a 1% tax increase, but it seems to me that it makes sense to go out on the street with that just from an abundance of caution and then work our way back to whatever we believe the right sized budget is that will be approved in the last meeting of the year. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Milner. Any other discussions, questions? If not, Madam Secretary, may I have roll call, please?
Just for clarification, is the number that we're authorizing? Can't hear you. Sorry about that. The number that we're authorizing staff to advertise, just for clarification, which number is that? Is it the higher number? Okay, and maybe Mr. Jones can say what the higher number is, so council's aware.
Which higher number?
Point of order. I think we made the motion and seconded the low number. We would need to amend that.
That's what I'm trying to get.
Yeah, we would need to amend that to use the higher number if we wanted to advertise that.
Yeah, I'm trying to get the clarification of what the higher number is, and then I would suggest a motion to amend. Okay. So do we know who made the motion?
For the budget, Derek.
So, Mr. Perry, would you accept that change to your motion?
Yes.
Okay, and then who seconded it?
Olivia.
And do you agree? Okay, so now we're ready to go.
Call for a motion to amend.
Motion to amend.
I offer a motion to amend the prior motion as to the advertising of the budget to reflect the higher number.
Thank you, sir. So move.
No, I motion.
Second. Got you.
Madam Secretary, roll call, please.
William Caldwell.
Aye.
Gary Simpson. Marlon Milner. Olivia Brady. Valerie Scott Cooper. Derek Perry. Sonia Sanders.
Aye. Would a member of council like to act on the adjournment of the meeting?
I offer a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Meeting adjourned.